Hi, Stacy here with Limelight AZ. So, this week I've really kind of focused on what's happening with my body as far as the changes to my body and how it's affecting me. And we're needing to get testing done to make sure that my liver and kidneys and heart and everything are doing fine. My thyroid and a couple of other things for like vitamins and whatnot, and we're not really sure how to go about doing that since I'm bedridden, like really bedridden. I have not been out of bed in close to 3 months because my body just can't handle getting out of bed. I am now showing improvement with the bee stinging, thank goodness, but it's slow. And so we don't know how long it's going to be before I am functional enough to get out of the bed to go someplace to get blood work done. And it could be a catastrophic decision to not try to get testing done prior to that. So we're not really sure what to do, but we've been kind of discussing it. But one of the things we had talked about last night was, there's no documentation of me being bedridden. I mean, obviously there's YouTube, but like there's no medical documentation because I was diagnosed in March. I went to the ER once prior to leaving Wisconsin. And at that point I was still somewhat mobile. And that's it. Where I am now and have been for 3 months, which is like literally I'm not getting out of bed, nor any other testing has been done since my diagnosis. So for insurance and stuff like that, that's complicated because there's no documentation of what I'm dealing with. And so we discussed whether or not I should go to the hospital to get these tests done. But unfortunately, then they're going to start chasing rabbit holes to try to figure out what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me. Because Lyme disease or chronic Lyme disease doesn't exist in their world. So they're not going to accept it's a Lyme disease diagnosis. Well, today I kind of ran across a little bit of information about ALS. I recognized the term and Lou Gehrig's disease, and I knew that they were connected, but I really didn't know much about it. I would be pegged as having ALS, no doubt about it. I have had so much muscle waste away that, like the skin on the back of my calves, the skin sags like as if I were somebody who lost a lot of weight, and the skin under your arm sags. I mean, it jiggles. It's weird because there's no muscle there anymore. I mean, there might be a little bit, but not like there used to be, and it's definitely not filling in the skin in the area. I'm probably going to end up doing a video showing that here soon, because now that I am building some muscle, I'm hoping that that will fill out in the near future. But I have other areas of my body, like my hands especially, that are sunken in from muscle wasting away, and pretty sure that ALS would be the first thing that they would try to peg me as having, because of how bad it is. Like I have no muscle to do anything with. A little bit of muscle that I do have doesn't get me very far, and so I'm sitting here thinking about how much time, if I didn't know what I was dealing with. Like, I got diagnosed pretty quickly after I started my symptoms. My symptoms really started, the big symptoms. I've had symptoms throughout my life for a couple of decades, but the big symptoms were the ones that hit in January and really turned our lives upside down. Well, by the end of March, I had a diagnosis of Lyme disease and knew what I was dealing with. And then by May, started the bee venom therapy. Well, what would have happened if I didn't know that what I was dealing with was Lyme disease? What would have happened if I was not a proactive person that goes and chases down her own illnesses based off of symptoms and looks at what it is I personally am experiencing, not just based off of testing. Had it confirmed through testing, but, what if I was not a person that was proactive like that and pushed for having these things tested? Then at this point, I probably would be diagnosed with having ALS and probably only a few years to live. Or be on medication that is for ALS that is not what I'm dealing with. It just really got me thinking about how often that happens. It's horrible about how often people are misdiagnosed because they don't have any other answers. Because Lyme disease is not recognized. So, I don't know. I feel very fortunate on the one hand to know what it is that I'm dealing with and know that, that I have some answers to deal with it. But very unfortunate that I'm stuck in bed, I don't know, it frustrates me for the people out there that are going for 5, 10, 15 years, going between 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 doctors, trying to get answers to what's going on with them, because nothing ever quite fits. And it turns out it's Lyme disease and co-infections. So, I just wish there was some way of being able to force the hand of the medical community to recognize this and the co-infections. Not just Lyme disease. It's not just a Lyme disease issue. Although it's all kind of blanketed under the Lyme disease umbrella, it's really Lyme disease and co-infections. And oftentimes the co-infections are quite bad in comparison to the Lyme disease itself. It's just frustrating for those out there that aren't getting answers. I'm frustrated for them, I was lucky. I got my answers, and I'm working at it on my own without the assistance of doctors. But the ones that aren't proactive and aren't advocates for themselves, they just bounce from one doctor to the next doctor, trying to get answers. And like what I just read about ALS was that oftentimes people think that Lyme disease causes ALS. Well, no, I think that ALS does exist, but I think a lot of times it is quite possible that there's people like me who have Lyme disease and it's not recognized because testing is awful. And then there's bad information, like this article said that it's easily treatable with antibiotic. That is not true. Not unless it's an early infection. Such bad information out there, It's frustrating for the other people. I mean, I have answers, and I got them early, and I am super, super fortunate for that. But for all of these other people that don't know what they're dealing with, whether they think that they have ALS or multiple sclerosis or muscular dystrophy is what ALS is, but is like a younger version of it. Or just diabetes or psychosis or restless leg syndrome or, any number of different things. There's like over 300 different diseases that Lyme disease mimics. Lyme disease, and part of that is because it's not just Lyme disease, it's Lyme disease and co-infections. So depending on what your mixture is, you're going to get different results. I think one of my biggest issues is dealing with Bartonella. And I think that's what is causing the muscle loss and the burning sensation in the feet and the raging outbursts that is not normal for me. So it's frustrating to know that there's people with my symptoms that aren't getting answers because they're not proactive, and their families aren't proactive. There's got to be more awareness about what Lyme disease is and is not. Or, gosh, just give it a different name so that way it stops having the stigma attached. People wonder why I don't go get antibiotic. Well, because antibiotic doesn't work at my stage of infection. So, but they don't understand that. So, I think we should have Lyme disease, which is early infection, and some other name for it when it's later infection. That's what they did with HIV and AIDS. Obviously, early infection was HIV, and later stage is AIDS. So, it gives a clear difference between what somebody might be dealing with versus what they are now having to deal with. So, I don't know, just some pondering thoughts. I'm feeling better today, as you can probably see. I think I'm finally going on an upswing. We've had 2 sting days. We did stinging night before last. And yesterday we felt pretty awful. My stomach was giving me issues, and today half the day my stomach was giving me issues, but now I think I've kind of come into a clearing with that. And so I'm feeling better, thank goodness, because I really don't feel like feeling like crud. Anyways, I guess that's about it. Just more ramblings of a limey.